if you don't mind, like off the
Yeah.
fly, non-planned question that I have is because I've kind of tested all the things when it comes to social media posts, but
Yeah.
do you feel like it matters if you want to ask a question, if like one of your goals is to get people thinking, of course, clearly, but also maybe even to get engagement so you can start commenting back and forth and getting to know each other and all
Yeah.
that.
That's huge.
What do you think that a question, since people are in such a rush and they're scrolling, should be asked first sometimes to get that rolling? Or do you think that a question at the end of your post, or do you think it doesn't matter and it depends on the situation?
Yeah, I guess sometimes it depends, but from a copywriting standpoint, I personally think that a question is a great way to start the conversation because you're putting people in kind of your mind frame. Like you are trying to lead them down this path. So you're trying to get like-minded people to think like you, and asking a question is a great way to do that. It's like, have you ever experienced this? Or, imagine if this, what would it be like? Get them to imagine that and visualize kind of what you're thinking. You're setting them up, and then you can continue to use visualization, and even something simple at the end, like if you found this useful, or did you find this tip useful? Question. If so, tag a friend or leave a comment.
Right.
If anybody else can find this helpful.
Okay, that's good to hear because I've thought about it myself about starting to try more of asking questions at the beginning instead of the end because sadly it's asking a lot to ask someone to read like 4 sentences. So
Yeah.
maybe starting with a question is a cool way to shake it up to get them thinking, and then maybe that will lead them to read the
Yeah.
rest. Hopefully, do you think that just another question I just came up with? Do you think that like okay, so like if you say see somebody make a social media post and the caption is lengthy, okay,
Yeah.
more than just a few sentences, what do you think about that? Do you have an opinion about that in general, about length? And also about like, do you think that what do you think leads someone to read the whole thing? Is it probably a mixture of the words they used and then also that brand awareness they've built? Or
Yeah. Yeah, for me, when it comes to length, I just say as long as it takes you to get the customers sold on what you do or sold on like the value that you're bringing in that post, that gets them to click something, I feel like that's how long it should be, really. So, I mean, you can tell a story. If it's 3 sentences, then use 3 sentences if you want to get clear and to the point, which is great. But if you want to get more in detail, and like almost a mini case study. Like if you have a real life example, make it a little bit lengthy. I think that's why people read them a lot too. And I think it depends as you grow. Just keep testing it out. I feel like you could see a lot of a lot of influencers on social media who have those long captions. A lot of them get read because they've started to build that brand authority. And
right.
if kind of long captions are your thing, then make that kind of your what's unique about you. Just keep them lengthy and always leave them with the question. That could be kind of your thing with what you do as well.
Right. Okay. Um, yeah, because I noticed that it's interesting. Sometimes it's such a variety. Sometimes I will be willing to read something longer myself, and
Yeah.
then sometimes I won't. Sometimes I literally am putting my phone down, and I guess it's just the luck of the draw, and I'm not going to read it. Um, but yeah, I find you're right. Like over time, somebody that I've, really invested in and I feel very interested in what they have to say, it could be really long. Like you said, like micro blogging and things like that on Instagram. And I'll read it for sure, especially if they're truly providing good value in the post. But I
Yeah.
also think it's fun to mix it up, right? Like sometimes if you
Absolutely.
if you post something that's maybe of the right vibe, maybe it's something more fun, relaxed, simple to just have like one line. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Absolutely. And even if you start with something like, "Let me tell you this hilarious story," and that's it, that's your first line, and then
Oh,
you
that's good.
keep breaking it up, and like you keep break it up, have these line breaks. You could have it more lengthy for sure, or like look at it as if you're writing an article, these are the 3 things that you know every mom can do in 10 minutes, something like that, and then just keep going into detail. Maybe it could be short. Maybe you break it down using check mark emojis or bullets, which is great. But don't be too afraid to get super lengthy if you feel that you keep adding value. And if it gets people to comment and engage with you, then great. I mean,
Right.
don't don't fret about it. And then the next
Right.
time you could just ask a question and say, leave it in the comments. And as long as it kind of matches what the context of the image or video is, I think that I have no problem with it being short or long. Kind of
Right.
going back to your question. Like I'm not against either of them.
Okay.
It just depends what it is. If you're rambling on, if you keep trying to talk about you and keep selling all these, like you talked about this hyping about it, like this will change your life. Here's why it does this, it does that, it does that. It's like, okay, I don't know. This doesn't necessarily interest me. Like, I might not be your target audience at the end of the day.
Right. Okay. Okay. So something else just popped in my mind. I'm sorry. I'm just hitting you with a few things that we didn't even plan for, but I
Awesome.
feel like whatever, right? Okay. I cannot end this conversation without asking you about grammar because, look, nobody's perfect, but
Yeah, for sure.
in my little world of like my husband and my friends and stuff, I'm kind of known as grammar police.
Okay.
Granted, I'll be very kind to people, but in my mind, I'm like, really? You just posted that social media post for your business and you spelled that shit wrong. Like, I can't, or like, like the there, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, clearly we want our grammar to be correct, ideally, but to, because I know everybody listening is not grammar police, um, help us out. Give some guidance on that. Like, if somebody feels like they messed up, is it the end of the world? Like, what do you think?
Well, you know what? Think of who your target audience is. So if you're trying to get legitimate clients and build your business and get customers, I highly recommend that you police yourself with the grammar and make sure stuff is spelled correctly and that you're not making these, tiny mistakes. If you do, you know what? In the end, it's okay. Luckily, you can kind of edit it, but I suggest writing it in Google Docs or another form and then using a tool like Grammarly, like copy and pasting it in there and making sure some of those mistakes are covered. I think that's why a big thing about batching is so important because you can do it in one setting and then you can go and edit them before you just on the fly just schedule something. But I would just
Right.
recommend always trying to edit it, especially if you're selling like a tangible product. Like you don't want to come off like it's cheap. If you want it to be, if you feel like it's a quality item and you're charging kind of a high end or a more expensive price, your grammar needs to be there. If you're spelling there wrong or if like a period like breaks up a sentence weird, it's not a good look.
Right. Well, and like I'm an Apple iPhone. I'm an iPhone fan. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. I sometimes run my business on it for days in a row. But everyone, the iPhone adds an apostrophe, and it's not always necessary. So don't always believe the iPhone. Like Mondays with apostrophe, I just it's too much for me.
Hey, here's a quick tip that may change your life. Before
Okay.
you press post, send, publish, whatever, read it out loud to yourself first.
That's
Word,
good.
sentence by sentence, read it out loud. Because then, even if it's to somebody, even if it's to your kid, I don't care. Just read it out loud because then you'll be like, well, that sounds awful. That's a run on sentence. Or like, that's clearly a spelling error or, I used the wrong word there. So I think that's super helpful because how many
That's a
times
good.
I've done it plenty of times too, where I post something and then I read it out loud as it's live. And I'm like, well, that's great. I messed up there. Got to go ahead and change that now.
Right. Yeah, no, nobody's perfect. See, you guys, even the professional is not perfect. He makes mistakes, but he also knows to check himself before he wrecks himself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, good advice. I'm so glad I remembered to ask you that because I thought about it yesterday and I was so excited because I'm all about the grammar and anytime I've ever just I guess been in a rush and then gone back and seen that I made a mistake, I'm like, oh my God, I wonder how many people saw it. This is so embarrassing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Thankfully, there's a lot of tools out there to kind of help catch that. Because when I'm writing, like I do make a handful of grammar mistakes because I'm trying to write how I talk, and I try to blend that in with using proper grammar and still making it sound conversational. But
Right.
typing right away and so fast on my computer, it's easy to make mistakes. It's
Right.
going to happen, but just know that you can correct them and craft it into what you want it to be.
Right. Well, and I like you saying to think about your target audience. I mean,
Right.
everybody should strive for good grammar. Clearly, that's more proper and professional, but especially be careful if you're if your target audience or your target client is
Yeah,
in
and
professional world.
if they use a little slang, go ahead and do that. But just like again, the common mistakes you want to avoid. Like if you say your and if you just use the your and it's not, the apostrophe re, like that stuff could drive a lot of people crazy because there's other people who think like us who are grammar police. But again, if you have it conversational and you want to use slang, you want to throw in a curse word that doesn't sound too tacky or aggressive, go ahead. Because if that's your personality, perfect.
Yeah, if it's authentic, yeah.
Exactly. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think we covered a lot. Thank you so much. So do you feel what do you feel like in closing, do you have any final thoughts on this? Like anything that's simple that somebody could do that's social media posting, all this stuff. Like any other final thoughts before we're
Yeah, I touched on, being consistent. I think a big thing is try to get more comfortable doing video as well. I mean, like with me as a copywriter, I get like I have a lot of clients I write, but like I also like to create content by doing video. And so I think that's just so huge for people to see your personality, to see, that you're an actual human, what you look like, what you sound like, put a face to a name. I think that's, really important. Try to find a consistent strategy with video. And, honestly, just be consistent, but add some personality. Like if you're selling, like if you're in e-commerce, you don't always just have to keep promoting, your product all the time. Or like, let's say you work for another company or have a partner and you're just, always talking about, your product or the business itself. Throw in about a little bit about how you are. Go a little bit behind the scenes and show people more of that genuine side of you, because that's ultimately going to build trust. This isn't even a cliche. It's just said a lot, but people want to work with people who they feel like they know. And so that's just a big thing with social media for me. It's something new to me still these past 2 to 3 years, but I'm trying to I'm posting all these tips. I'm trying to collaborate with more people to bring more brand awareness, ultimately to add value to slowly build that trust with others. And I know that's just going to help me build my business, because I've had colleagues reach out to me saying, "Hey, I need a friend who needs website copy. Can I connect you?" Or needs help, updating their LinkedIn profile. Like those things will happen if you are consistent.
Yeah, I agree. And you are consistent. You guys, Terry is awesome to be connected with on social media. Seriously, he's always providing lots of information and easy to understand whenever he's doing the videos or whatever you're doing, all of it. Seriously, I really do get a lot from what you post. So
I appreciate that.
so
Yeah.
yeah, no, props to you. Speaking of, okay, so please tell everybody how they can find you everywhere. Just plug all of it and
Yeah.
how they could hire you, follow you, all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is terryshillingwrites.com. So it's WRITES.com. We'll link it in the show notes and have it on here so you guys can find me there. But find me on LinkedIn, Terry Shilling. It will say website copywriter on there. So that's how you can easily find me. I feel like Instagram and LinkedIn are the two biggest channels. I'm at Terry_Shilling, SCHILLING on there. Start doing a handful of series and video collabs. And honestly, I would love to just to plug it. If you want to sign up for my email newsletter, get tips on freelancing, how to run your own business, copywriting tips, some personal things just to have a little fun and try to engage
Yeah.
with you guys to share things back to me for future content pieces. So you can sign up for there and reach out to me. My email's on there. Go ahead and shoot me a message. I'd love to help or, riff with you any way I can.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right, you guys, I'm going to go find Terry all over the internet. And yes, I will link everything everywhere, all over the place.
I
Thank you
appreciate that.
so much for taking the time. I know your time is very valuable and I truly
Oh,
appreciate it.
it's great. I'm glad we created this relationship, Brittany. Thank you so much for including me on your podcast. Best of luck to you too. I love all that you do. I love the personality, the energy. It's great. And to all your listeners, just best of luck to you, and just keep grinding. As you know, that's a little bit cliche too, but just keep doing what you love and pursue it with passion, and everything's going to work out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Terry. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Thank you, Brittany.